presented by Soundlibra.com. Explore more titles via the link in the description or at Soundlibra.com. Welcome to Rest Without Guilt, helping you reclaim your time and peace. I'm Alex.
And I'm Lisa. Today, we dive into the Siren song of Busy.
Before we jump in, a quick heads up. While we're discussing mental well-being and rest, please remember this podcast is for educational purposes and isn't a substitute for professional medical or mental health advice. Always consult with a qualified professional regarding your specific situation.
That's a great point, Alex. Now, let's get into the heart of it. We live in a world that praises constant activity. Being busy is seen as a badge of honor, a sign of importance, even a measure of our worth. We're told if we're not doing something, we're falling behind.
It's like a race where stopping is seen as losing. I often feel this pressure myself. If I have a quiet evening, I might feel a pang of guilt, wondering if I should be doing more, learning something new, or working on a side project. It's a pervasive feeling.
That feeling, the nagging sense that you should be doing more, even when exhausted or tasks are complete, is what we're calling rest guilt. It's the uncomfortable tension when we try to rest, but our minds and societal conditioning tell us we're not being productive enough.
Rest guilt. It encapsulates that internal conflict perfectly. So, Lisa, where does this relentless drive to be busy, this glorification of busyness, actually come from?
That's a fantastic question, and it's something we'll unpack. We can trace it back to several powerful forces. One of the biggest is the historical shift in how we value work. For a long time, your value was tied to physical labor. The harder you worked, the more you contributed.
So, that ingrained idea that physical effort equals worth still lingers, even although many of our jobs are now knowledge-based.
Exactly. And then, especially in Western cultures, we have influences from the Protestant work ethic. This ideology emphasized hard work, discipline, and frugality as signs of moral virtue. Success was seen as an outward sign of inner worth.
The idea that hard work proves you're a good person. That might explain why stopping could feel wrong, like you're shirking a duty.
Precisely. And fast forward to today, this has been amplified by the rise of the cult of productivity. Think about all the apps, books, and seminars promising to help you achieve more, optimize your time, and squeeze efficiency out of your day.
It feels like productivity has become a competition, a performance. And if you're not performing at peak busyness, you're failing.
You've hit the nail on the head. We're encouraged to build personal brands, to hustle, to constantly be learning. While growth is valuable, this relentless pressure can become unhealthy. It equates our worth not just with what we do, but with how much we do and how efficiently we do it.
So, instead of resting being a natural part of life, it becomes something we have to justify. We need a reason to rest, otherwise we feel guilty.
Correct. And this is where the core question of our series emerges. What if true productivity, real innovation, and a deeper sense of fulfillment don't actually come from being constantly busy, but from knowing when and how to stop? What if rest is not the opposite of productivity, but a crucial component of it?
That's a bit of a mind bender. We're so conditioned to believe that more activity equals more results. The idea that less can sometimes be more feels counterintuitive.
It does, but think about it biologically and psychologically. Our brains and bodies aren't designed for nonstop output. Just like a muscle needs recovery to rebuild stronger, our minds need downtime to process, consolidate information, and prevent burnout.
So, this constant state of busyness might actually be hindering our ability to be truly productive. It's like running a marathon at a sprint pace. You'll burn out quickly and won't finish the race.
That's a great analogy. You're expending all your energy up front, but you're not building the sustainable endurance for the long haul. And this isn't just about avoiding burnout. It's about unlocking our potential. When we're overworked, our creativity suffers. Our ability to solve complex problems diminishes. our decision-making becomes clouded.
So, by constantly pushing ourselves to be busy, we're actually sabotaging the very outcomes we're striving for. The very things we think busyness will achieve, success, accomplishment, fulfillment, get pushed further away.
Exactly.
And rest without guilt is designed to help us dismantle that harmful narrative. We want to explore where guilt comes from, understand why rest is essential, and most importantly, equip you with practical strategies to embrace rest, not as an indulgence, but as a non-negotiable foundation for a healthier, more effective, and more joyful life.
So, the first step is acknowledging the problem and understanding the roots of this widespread busy bias and the guilt it breeds. We've touched on historical influences, the work ethic, and the modern cult of productivity.
That's a perfect summary. We've introduced rest guilt and explored its origins. We've begun to question the belief that busyness equals worth and hinted that perhaps, just perhaps, stopping might be the key to doing better.
It's a compelling idea, isn't it? That sometimes the most productive thing we can do is to pause.
Absolutely. In our next episode, we'll dig deeper into the psychological and neurological reasons behind rest guilt. We'll unpack it further and explore how it affects our mindset and well-being.
Sounds like essential listening. So, to recap this episode, we live in a culture that prizes busyness, often leading to rest guilt, the idea that we should always be doing more. This stems from historical work ethics and the modern obsession with productivity. We believe that true productivity and well-being come from intentional rest, not constant activity.
Well said. Thank you all for joining us for this first episode of Rest Without Guilt. We hope this has sparked some thought and perhaps just a little bit of permission to breathe.
Join us next time as we explore the neuroscience of recharge and why your brain truly needs a break. Next episode, Unpacking Rest Guilt. Where does it come from? Welcome back to Rest Without Guilt. Last time, we discussed how being busy feels like an honor, even when we're exhausted.
That's right, Alex. And today we're diving deeper into why resting makes us feel guilty. It's like an internal voice telling us we shouldn't be resting, but should be doing something more productive.
Exactly. And where does that voice come from? I think a big part of it is the messages we've absorbed throughout our lives. We often internalize the idea that our value as people is tied to how much we produce, how many tasks we check off a list.
It's like we're taught from a young age that if you're not actively doing something, you're falling behind. Think about childhood. When did we hear "good job" or "you're so helpful"? Usually when we were doing chores or helping out. Resting or playing quietly didn't always get the same positive reinforcement.
That's a great point, Lisa. And this message gets amplified as we get older. We see constant portrayals in media and even in our workplaces of people who are always on, always hustling, always achieving. It's easy to start believing that's the only path to success and happiness.
And then there's the fear of falling behind. If I'm not working, surely my colleagues are. Surely my competitors are. Surely my dreams are slipping away because I took an hour to read a book or just sit in silence. It's a powerful motivator, that fear, but also a very corrosive one.
It really is. This is what I call the cult of productivity. We worship at the altar of being busy. We're constantly bombarded with advice on how to be more productive, how to optimize every minute, how to squeeze more out of every day. What are we supposed to do with that advice when our bodies and minds are screaming for a break?
It creates this internal conflict, doesn't it? We intellectually know we need rest. We hear about the benefits. But emotionally, we feel this immense guilt. It's a very confusing and draining state to be in. So, how do we start to identify the specific sources of our own rest guilt?
That's the crucial step, and it requires some self-reflection. I encourage listeners to think about their personal history. What messages did you receive about work, effort, and rest growing up? Were your parents or guardians strong proponents of a relentless work ethic? Did they praise you more for achievements or for being still?
And it's not just about family, right? It's also about the messages we receive from our friends, our wider social circles, and of course, our workplaces. If everyone around you is constantly talking about how swamped they are, how many late nights they're pulling, it becomes the norm.
Precisely. Consider your social media feeds. If you're constantly seeing people showcasing their achievements, their busy schedules, their early mornings, it can subtly reinforce the idea that you should be doing the same. This societal pressure to always be achieving, to always be more, is a huge contributor to rest guilt.
It's like an invisible scoreboard. We're constantly comparing ourselves to others, even if we don't intend to. And if our score looks low because we're resting, we feel like we're losing. It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It is. And then there's the internalized belief about our own worth. Many of us have, perhaps without realizing it, linked our sense of self-worth to our productivity. If I'm not accomplishing things, am I still valuable? Am I still a good parent, a good employee, a good friend? This is a really tough cycle to break.
So, to recap what we've discussed, rest guilt stems from a mix of internalized messages, often starting in childhood, about our value being tied to productivity. This is then amplified by societal pressures and the pervasive culture of busyness that encourages constant achievement. And we can't forget the fear of falling behind.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. This episode is all about helping you identify the roots of your own rest guilt. Think about those messages you've absorbed. When do you feel the most guilt about resting? What thoughts or fears pop up? Jotting these down can be incredibly insightful.
It's about making the invisible visible. Once we understand why we feel this guilt, we can start to challenge those beliefs. It's the first and perhaps the most important step in giving ourselves permission to rest without feeling like we've failed.
Absolutely. Think of it like this. If you're carrying a heavy backpack and you feel pain, you don't just push through. You stop, you identify what's making it heavy, and you lighten the load. Rest guilt is that pain. We need to identify the sources of that unnecessary weight.
And sometimes that weight comes from believing that rest is a reward that you have to earn. You only get to rest after you've finished everything, after you've been incredibly productive. But what if rest is actually the fuel that allows us to be productive and engaged in the first place?
That's a mind-bending shift, isn't it? We'll explore that more in future episodes, but for now, focus on identifying your personal sources of rest guilt. Ask yourself, what beliefs do I hold about work and rest? Where did those beliefs come from? What are my biggest fears when I consider resting?
It can feel uncomfortable, like digging into old wounds. But it's essential for genuine healing and for building a healthier relationship with rest. Recognizing these patterns is the first step to dismantling them.
And remember, this isn't about self-criticism. It's about understanding. We've all been conditioned in certain ways. Approaching this with curiosity and self-compassion will make the process much more effective. It's like being a detective of your own mind.
A detective for a more rested life. I like that. So, to recap for our listeners, we've unpacked the psychological and societal roots of rest guilt. We've discussed how childhood messages, societal pressures, and the fear of falling behind all contribute. And we've urged you to identify the specific sources of your own guilt.
Exactly. This is the foundation for truly giving yourself permission to rest. Once you understand where the guilt comes from, you can begin to challenge and reframe those old beliefs. Next episode, The Cult of Productivity, a critical look. Welcome back. Last time we explored rest guilt. Now let's tackle the cult of productivity.
That's right, Alex. We touched on how often the very idea of resting feels wrong, like we're failing, even when we're exhausted. And that feeling, that guilt, is deeply connected to something we all experience: the constant pressure to be productive.
Precisely. And today we're diving headfirst into what I've called the cult of productivity. It's a phrase that might sound a bit dramatic, but honestly, I think it's an apt description for how many of us live. We worship at the altar of doing, believing that constant output is not just desirable, but essential.
A cult of productivity. That's a strong image.
What do you mean by that?
What are the core beliefs of this mindset?
The core belief is simple, yet pervasive. More is always better. More tasks completed, more hours worked, more achievements stacked up. Our worth, our value, is often measured by our output. If you're not actively doing something productive, you're seen as lazy or worse, a failure. This isn't just about having a job. It's a mindset that infiltrates every area of life, from hobbies to personal relationships.
So it's not just about work, it's about a blanket feeling that our lives should be a constant stream of accomplishment.
Exactly. And this thinking is deeply ingrained. We're bombarded with messages from social media, from media headlines, even from well-meaning friends and family that glorify the hustle. We see stories of people working long hours, sacrificing sleep, and we're told that's what it takes to succeed. It creates this unrealistic and unhealthy benchmark.
It's like we're trained to feel guilty for resting, as we discussed last time. If the ultimate goal is endless productivity, then anything that interrupts that goal, like sleep or downtime, must be bad.
You've hit the nail on the head. This way of thinking teaches us that rest is a luxury, a reward you earn after you've accomplished everything. But it's not seen as a fundamental human need, like eating or breathing. It's an antagonist to productivity. This is where the rest guilt really takes root. If you're resting, you're not being productive, and therefore, you're failing.
And this way of thinking has real consequences, doesn't it? It's not just a philosophical discussion.
Oh, absolutely. The consequences are severe and far-reaching. Chronic stress, burnout, anxiety, depression, physical health problems. These are all common outcomes of living in this hyperproductive environment. Our bodies and minds are simply not designed to operate at peak performance all the time. Think about it. Even the most powerful machines need to be turned off, maintained, and allowed to cool down.
That's a great analogy. We wouldn't expect a car to run forever without stopping for gas or maintenance. Yet, we expect ourselves to.
Exactly. And this mindset actively discourages introspection. When we're always rushing, always doing, we don't have time to ask ourselves critical questions. Are we happy? Is this path truly fulfilling? Or are we just following a societal script of what success looks like? We're so focused on the doing that we forget to consider the being.
So, to recap this idea of the cult of productivity, it's a mindset that demands constant output, measures our worth by our achievements, tells us rest is a reward earned only after extreme effort, and discourages self-reflection. It's a relentless engine that often leads to burnout and unhappiness.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. And the origins of this are fascinating. This idea of productivity as the ultimate virtue isn't ancient. It's largely a product of the Industrial Revolution and subsequent societal shifts. Before that, life was often dictated by seasons, by natural rhythms. But with industrialization, time became money. Efficiency became paramount.
So, the very tools and systems we created to make life easier eventually led to this pressure to be constantly optimizing?
In many ways, yes. And then, innovations like the personal computer and the internet, while offering incredible benefits, also blurred the lines between work and personal life. Now, the office can be anywhere, and the workday can theoretically extend indefinitely. This makes it even harder to switch off and escape the demands of productivity.
It's like we've created a system where the very tools meant to empower us can also trap us. And the problem is that this definition of productivity is often very narrow. It focuses on quantifiable output, like closing deals, writing code, or hitting sales targets. But what about less tangible contributions?
That's a crucial point. What about the creativity that flows from downtime? What about the empathy and connection that come from spending quality time with loved ones? What about the deep problem solving that happens when your mind has space to wander? These are incredibly productive activities, but they don't fit neatly into the traditional, narrow definition of productivity that this mindset champions.
So, this obsession with productivity is not only demanding too much from us, but it's also misdefining what true productivity even looks like. It prioritizes busy work over meaningful output.
Exactly. It's a shallow understanding that prioritizes the appearance of activity over genuine effectiveness and well-being. It's like mistaking frantic flapping for purposeful flight. We need to challenge this narrative. We need to recognize that rest isn't the opposite of productivity. It's an essential component of it.
This really ties back to what we discussed in episode 1 about the Siren song of busy. It's so appealing to be seen as busy, as important as highly productive. But you're showing us that this Siren song leads us onto dangerous rocks.
It does. And the good news is, once we recognize this mindset for what it is, we can start to dismantle it in our own lives. It requires a conscious effort to question the assumptions we've internalized about work, worth, and rest. It's about reclaiming our time and our energy and redefining success on our own terms, terms that include well-being.
And that's what we'll be exploring in the upcoming episodes: how to actually do that. How to build a life where rest isn't a guilty afterthought, but a valued and integrated part of our existence. We need to learn to prioritize our need for rest just as much as the need for any other task.
So, to sum up today's discussion on the cult of productivity, we've seen how it's a pervasive mindset that glorifies constant doing, equates worth with output, and often labels rest as laziness. This demanding ideology can lead to burnout and a misunderstanding of what true productivity entails. We've explored its origins and its detrimental effects, and we've begun to see the need to challenge this relentless pursuit of busy.
It's a powerful force to confront, but by understanding it, we take the first step towards breaking free from its grip.
Indeed. And next time, we're going to delve into the fascinating science behind why our brains and bodies desperately need breaks. We'll look at the neuroscience of recharge. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to Rest Without Guilt. Today, we explore the neuroscience of recharge.
It feels like we should be able to push through indefinitely, but science says otherwise.
Exactly. Our brains are complex and need recharging like a phone. When we don't allow rest, our thinking, feeling, and performance suffer.
So, what are these recharging mechanisms in our brains? What's happening when we rest?
During rest, especially sleep, a process called synaptic homeostasis occurs. Our brains have billions of connections between nerve cells called synapses. As we learn and experience things, these connections can strengthen. Synaptic homeostasis helps the brain tidy up, weakening less important connections and making the crucial ones stand out more clearly. Think of it like decluttering a busy workspace so you can better focus on the important tasks.
So, rest helps our brain sort information, strengthen what's important, and declutter. That makes sense for memory and learning.
Precisely. Rest also plays a key role in consolidating memories, moving them from temporary storage to long-term memory. You can picture this like organizing files from a temporary inbox into specific folders on your computer's hard drive. Without enough rest, this filing process gets disrupted and information you've learned might not stick.
That explains why cramming for tests doesn't always lead to long-term retention.
Exactly. Rest is also linked to creativity and problem solving. When we're constantly focused on a task, We tend to use established patterns of thinking. But during periods of rest, different brain networks become more active. One such network is called the default mode network.
The default mode network? What's that?
Imagine your brain has different sets of tools. When you're concentrating intensely, one set is actively working. But when you're resting or letting your mind wander, the default mode network comes online. This network is associated with thinking about ourselves, reflecting, and making new, unexpected connections between seemingly unrelated ideas.
So, doing nothing is when our brain might be doing some of its most creative work?
Yes, those sudden moments of insight, those aha moments, often strike when we're not actively trying to solve a problem. Constant stimulation can actually hinder creativity by keeping this default mode network quieter. We need those quiet moments for our minds to drift and make those unexpected links.
It's like letting ingredients rest before baking a cake. That rest period is essential for the final product.
Great analogy. Beyond cognitive functions, rest is vital for emotional regulation. When we're not getting enough sleep, the amygdala, which is a key part of our brain responsible for processing emotions, becomes more reactive.
The amygdala gets hyperactive, so we become more prone to outbursts or feeling overwhelmed.
Precisely. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles rational thinking and impulse control, struggles to effectively manage the amygdala when you're tired. This can lead to overreacting to stressful situations and increased irritability. It's like the brain's stress management system is running on low battery.
That reframes personal experiences. When I feel overly frustrated, it might be my brain signaling it needs a recharge, not a character flaw.
Absolutely. Getting enough sleep and adequate rest helps improve your ability to regulate emotions and cope with stress. It allows the prefrontal cortex to function at its best, acting like a calm and steady hand guiding your responses.
So, to recap the neuroscience of recharge, we have synaptic homeostasis, where the brain prunes less important neural connections and strengthens vital ones. We have memory consolidation, moving information into long-term storage. We've also seen how rest activates the default mode network to foster creativity by connecting disparate ideas. And finally, rest is crucial for emotional regulation, allowing our prefrontal cortex to manage our emotions effectively.
Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Rest Without Guilt. Last time, we explored the neuroscience of why our brains desperately need breaks.
And we learned that recharge isn't just a luxury, it's a biological necessity, Alex. Thinking about rest often brings to mind naps or sleep, but this episode is all about broadening that definition, right?
Precisely, Lisa. This is episode 5, and we're exploring the spectrum of rest beyond the nap. Rest isn't a one-size-fits-all idea. We'll unpack how to recharge in many accessible ways.
So, a whole toolbox of restorative practices, not just sleeping?
Exactly. If sleep is a full system reboot, other forms of rest are like quick maintenance to keep things running smoothly. We're talking micro breaks, mindfulness, creative pursuits, and disconnecting from technology.
Okay, let's start with micro breaks. What exactly are those?
Micro breaks are very short periods, about 30 seconds to a couple of minutes, where you intentionally step away from your task. It gives your focus a brief respite. Stand up, stretch, look out a window, or just close your eyes and breathe deeply.
So, not a full coffee break, but consciously shifting your attention for a moment.
Yes, and intentionally is key. It's not aimless scrolling, which can be draining. It's a conscious pause. This prevents decision fatigue, where making constant small decisions depletes your mental energy. A micro break helps replenish that.
Like a circuit breaker preventing burnout?
That's a perfect analogy, Lisa. They prevent mental overload. Now, building on intentional disengagement, we have mindfulness and meditation.
I think many people hear meditation and feel they must clear their minds completely.
That's a common misconception. Mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment without judgment. Notice your breath, sounds, or bodily sensations. You don't stop thinking, you just observe your thoughts.
So, mindfulness is awareness, and meditation is the practice to cultivate it?
Exactly. Meditation is the practice, mindfulness is the state. Even 5 minutes of mindful breathing daily can reduce stress and improve clarity. It's teaching your brain quiet observation.
That sounds much more accessible. 5 minutes of focused breathing is a manageable time commitment with significant benefits.
Absolutely. Then we move into rest from other engagements, creative pursuits.
Like painting, writing, or playing music.
Yes, engaging in activities that allow self-expression and flow puts your brain into a different state. This flow state is energizing, not draining. It's a different mental engagement that refreshes other parts of your brain.
So, it's about the process of enjoying and expressing yourself, not necessarily being good at it.
Precisely. It's about the process. Your analytical brain takes a break while your imaginative brain leads. It allows for a different kind of mental stimulation that recharges you.
Shifting gears mentally. And you mentioned disconnecting from technology. That feels huge.
It is. Devices constantly stimulate us. Notifications, emails, social media, they all pull our attention. Deliberately disconnecting calms our nervous systems and reduces the constant influx of information.
So, it's permission to be out of reach for a while. That can feel a bit strange.
It can, but the benefits are immense. When we disconnect, we reconnect with ourselves and our surroundings. We might notice more, have deeper conversations, or let our minds wander freely. This wandering is important for problem solving and creativity.
So, these are active choices to replenish our mental and emotional reserves, not just passive rest.
Exactly. This diverse spectrum of rest makes restorative practices accessible to everyone. You don't need a retreat. You can weave these into daily life. It's the antidote to the cult of productivity. Being productive doesn't always mean being busy.
It's about being effective, and that requires replenishment. To recap, we've broadened rest beyond sleep to include micro breaks for respite, mindfulness and meditation for awareness, creative pursuits for self expression, and disconnecting from technology to calm our nervous systems.
And the key is intention. These are intentional acts of self-care that recharge us and prevent burnout. This diverse approach offers options for everyone.
So, instead of feeling guilty about not napping, we feel empowered by choosing the right rest for us in any given moment.
Precisely. And this leads to our next episode, where we'll explore intentional pause, crafting your daily resets. We'll learn how to build these small acts of restoration into your day.
Fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that.
Until then, notice the small opportunities for rest. Even 30 seconds can make a difference. Next episode, intentional pause, crafting your daily resets. Welcome back to Rest Without Guilt. We explored the wide spectrum of rest beyond sleep and naps.
That's right, Alex. We talked about creative rest, sensory rest, active rest, and social rest. It really opened my eyes to how many different ways we can recharge. So today, we're diving into how we can actually put that knowledge into practice, right?
Exactly. Today we're talking about intentional pause and specifically crafting your daily resets. Think of these as small, actionable micro breaks that you can weave into even the busiest of days. The idea is to proactively dial down the intensity for a few moments, rather than waiting until you hit a wall of exhaustion.
Daily resets. That sounds incredibly appealing, especially when we're always feeling like we're juggling a dozen things. But how do we make them intentional and not just another task on the to-do list?
That's the key, Lisa. Intentional means you're choosing to pause rather than being forced to by fatigue. It's about reclaiming small pockets of time for yourself. We're not talking about long vacations here, but rather quick, powerful moments that can significantly shift your state of mind and energy levels. So, what are some of these powerful little breaks?
Well, after our last discussion, I've been experimenting with a few things. One simple one is mindful breathing. It sounds so basic, doesn't it? Just taking a few deep breaths. But Alex, when I consciously focus on my breath for, say, 60 seconds, it's like a tiny alarm clock going off in my brain, reminding me to just be present.
Absolutely. Mindful breathing is a cornerstone of intentional pausing. You're intentionally bringing your awareness to the present moment. Imagine your breath as an anchor. When your mind is racing with a million thoughts, upcoming deadlines, emails to send, that awkward conversation you had yesterday, your breath can pull you back to right here, right now. It's a way to interrupt the mental chatter.
And the beauty is you can do it anywhere, on the train, at your desk, even in the middle of a busy kitchen. You don't need special equipment or a quiet room. You just need to remember to do it.
Precisely. And that leads to another powerful daily reset, a brief walk. This isn't about hitting your step goal or fitting in a full workout. It's about stepping away from your immediate task, ideally stepping outdoors, and just moving your body for a few minutes. Even a 5-minute walk around the block can do wonders.
I've found that too. When I feel that slump in the afternoon, I'll often just walk to the end of the street and back. It's amazing how the change of scenery, the fresh air, and the simple act of walking can clear my head. It's like hitting a refresh button for my brain.
It really is. And when we talk about walking, it's not just the physical movement. It's the sensory experience. You're noticing the sights, the sounds, the feel of the air on your skin. This engages your senses in a way that's restorative, not draining. This is a form of sensory rest, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So, we have mindful breathing, short walks. What else can we incorporate? I've also found a lot of benefit from simply looking out the window.
I love that, Lisa. The art of doing nothing, or at least doing something that feels like nothing. Staring out the window can be incredibly grounding. It allows your mind to wander, to observe passively without needing to process or analyze. It's a form of visual rest.
It feels so unproductive in our productivity-obsessed culture, but it's actually incredibly valuable. It's like letting your brain have a mini holiday. You're not solving problems, you're not planning, you're just observing. And afterwards, I often feel more creative or have a fresh perspective on whatever I was working on.
Think of it this way. Your brain is constantly processing information. Even when you're just sitting at your desk, you're directing your attention, processing tasks. Giving your brain permission to just look without an agenda is a way of disengaging that directed focus. Imagine your brain is a spotlight, and you're used to shining it on specific tasks. Letting the ambient light fill the room is a great alternative.
That's a great analogy, Alex. Ambient light for the brain. So, we've got breathing, walking, looking out the window. These are all wonderful, but sometimes we need something a little more structured, even if it's just for a minute or two.
Absolutely. For some, a brief moment of focused gratitude can be a powerful reset. Take 30 seconds to just think of 3 things you're genuinely thankful for. It shifts your emotional state from stress or overwhelm to appreciation. It's a quick way to reframe your perspective.
Oh, I like that. It's a mental shift. So, you could be feeling swamped, and then you deliberately think, okay, I'm grateful for my warm cup of tea. I'm grateful for this brief moment of quiet. I'm grateful for a friend who reached out. It's a small act of self-compassion.
Precisely. And another one, which taps into auditory rest, is listening to a single piece of calming music for just a few minutes. Not a whole playlist, not background noise to drown out other sounds, but a specific, enjoyable piece that you can focus on. It's about creating a positive auditory experience.
So, we're talking about intentional pauses, daily resets. We've got mindful breathing, short walks, observing the world outside, expressing gratitude, and listening to calming music. These are all things that can be done in what, 1 to 5 minutes?
Ideally, yes. The goal is accessibility. These aren't elaborate rituals. They are quick, practical interventions. The key is to make them intentional. This means you might need to set a gentle reminder on your phone or perhaps link it to an existing habit. For example, after you finish a specific task, take 1 minute to do some deep breathing. Or, before you make your coffee in the morning, step outside for 2 minutes.
Linking it to existing habits. That's a great tip. It bypasses the whole, I don't have time to add another thing to my day barrier. It leverages what you're already doing.
Exactly. And remember, these aren't one-off fixes. The power comes from consistency. By practicing these intentional pauses daily, you build resilience against burnout. You're not waiting for the storm to hit. You're building your shelter piece by piece every single day.
So, to recap, today we've explored crafting daily resets, which are intentional, short breaks throughout your day. We've discussed mindful breathing, anchoring yourself in the present moment, short walks, changing your environment and moving your body, visual observation, like looking out the window, allowing for passive engagement, gratitude practice, shifting your emotional state through appreciation, calming music, creating a positive auditory experience for a few minutes.
And the overarching theme is intention. You're consciously choosing to pause and replenish yourself, even for just a minute or two. These micro breaks accumulate and make a significant difference in your overall well-being and your ability to stay engaged and effective without burning out. It's about actively choosing rest, not as a reward, but as a fundamental part of your daily operating system.
It's about giving yourself permission to step off the hamster wheel, if only for a moment, and realize that doing so actually makes you better equipped to keep running.
Well said, Lisa. Remember, resting without guilt isn't just about sleeping more. It's about integrating moments of replenishment into every part of your life. These daily resets are powerful tools for exactly that. Next episode, scheduling your silence. We'll delve into how to make concrete time for these periods of quiet and reflection. Welcome back to Rest Without Guilt. Last time, we explored the power of intentional daily resets.
Absolutely. We talked about weaving small pauses into our day, like what you called micro rests. It's about consciously stepping away for a few minutes to catch your breath.
Exactly. And that's a fantastic starting point. But today, we're going to tackle a question that many of you are thinking. How do we move from those quick resets to making real time for deeper rest? We're talking about scheduling your silence.
Scheduling. That word can sometimes feel like the opposite of rest, can it? Like we're just adding more to our to-do list.
Can it? But here's the paradox. If rest is truly important, then it deserves a place on our schedule, just like any other important appointment. The truth is, if it's not scheduled, it often doesn't happen. We let other things creep in.
That makes so much sense. It's like that saying, what gets scheduled gets done. We need to treat our rest with the same intentionality as we do our work or our social commitments.
Precisely. So how do we do it? Let's start with the idea of blocking out time. This isn't just about looking at your calendar and hoping for a free afternoon. It's about actively putting rest into specific slots. Think of it like booking a doctor's appointment or a client meeting. You wouldn't just hope it happens. You'd actively put on a calendar.
So, for a longer break, say an afternoon off, you'd literally block out, I don't know, from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. on your calendar and label it rest or recharge?
Exactly. And here's a key point. You don't have to have a reason to rest that's tied to productivity. You don't need to justify it by saying, I need a rest so I can be more productive tomorrow. You can simply say, I need to rest because I am a human being and I deserve it.
I love that. It reframes rest from an indulgence to a necessity. So we've blocked out time. What else can we do to make sure this scheduled rest actually happens?
We can use a technique called time boxing. This is where you allocate a fixed amount of time for a specific activity, in this case, rest. For example, you might decide to dedicate 30 minutes every Saturday morning solely to reading a book or taking a long walk in nature without any distractions.
Time boxing. That sounds like a more structured approach than just taking an afternoon off. It puts a clear boundary around it.
It does. And the beauty of time boxing is that it's flexible. You can do it for an hour, a morning, or even a full day. The crucial part is the commitment to that specific time slot. Now, let's think about different kinds of rest we can schedule. We've touched on the idea of doing nothing or quiet time. This could be scheduled as a daily 15-minute block where you simply sit, perhaps with a cup of tea, and consciously choose not to do anything productive.
Like a mini meditation, but without the pressure to meditate. Just being.
Precisely. Or consider scheduling physical rest. This doesn't always mean a nap, though naps can be incredibly restorative. It could be scheduling a gentle yoga session, a leisurely bike ride, or even just 10 minutes stretching on the floor. The point is to intentionally plan movement that nourishes your body, not just exhaust it.
So, we're talking about scheduling active rest and passive rest.
You've got it. And we should also consider social rest. For many of us, our social lives are packed with obligations. But scheduling genuine connection, a relaxed coffee with a friend, a quiet dinner with family where you're truly present, that's a valuable form of rest too. It's about quality connection, not just quantity of interaction.
It's interesting how we often think of rest as solitary, but social rest is just as vital. It refuels us in a different way.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about longer breaks. We're talking about vacations, extended weekends, or even sabbaticals. The principle is the same. If it's not on the schedule, it's unlikely to happen. So, how do we make these bigger breaks a reality?
Start by putting them on the calendar, I assume.
Yes, but with more foresight. Begin by looking at your year. Or might there be opportunities for a longer break? Think about seasons, holidays, or even periods where work might be slower. Then, tentatively pencil in potential dates. This doesn't mean you're locked in, but it's the first step in making it tangible.
So, it's like planting a seed for that future rest.
A beautiful analogy. And as that date approaches, you need to plan for it actively. This involves delegating tasks, informing colleagues or clients, and setting clear boundaries so that when you are on break, you can truly be on break. This might mean setting an out-of-office message that clearly states when you'll be back and who to contact in your absence.
That's so important. It's the boundary piece. Without those clear lines, the work can easily creep in, and then you're not truly resting.
Exactly. And what about the guilt aspect? We've talked about the guilt of taking time off. How do we combat that when scheduling?
I think it comes back to what you said earlier, recognizing rest as a fundamental need, not a reward. When you're scheduling it, you're not asking for permission, you're simply making a plan for your well-being.
That's a powerful mindset shift. Another tactic is to schedule your rest before you feel completely burned out. We tend to wait until we hit a wall. But if we proactively schedule rest, we prevent hitting that wall in the first place. Think of it as preventative maintenance for your mind and body.
So, it's about being proactive rather than reactive. Instead of waiting for the system error, you're doing regular checkups.
A perfect way to put it. Let's summarize what we've covered today. We've learned that to truly make time for rest, we need to treat it like any other important appointment. This means actively scheduling and blocking out time on our calendars. We discussed time boxing as a method for setting clear boundaries around these rest periods.
And we talked about the different types of rest we can schedule, from daily quiet moments and physical activity to meaningful social connections and longer vacations. The key takeaway is that if it's not scheduled, it's unlikely to happen.
Exactly. And remember, the goal isn't to add more stress to your life by scheduling rest, but to integrate it in a way that supports your overall well-being and ultimately your effectiveness. It's a conscious choice to prioritize your health.
It's about moving from the idea of I'll rest when I have time to I'll make time to rest.
Spot on, Lisa. And that's the essence of creating a sustainable life where rest is not a guilt-ridden afterthought, but a foundational pillar. Next episode, The Art of Doing Nothing, Embracing Stillness. Welcome back to Rest Without Guilt. Today, we're embracing stillness, the art of doing nothing.
It certainly feels like a contradiction. My brain asks, what will I get out of this?
Exactly. We're wired for doing. The idea of just being can feel wasteful. But what if doing nothing is a profoundly active state for our minds?
I'm intrigued, but skeptical. What does doing nothing actually look like?
Think about it. We've discussed intentional rests, which are forms of active rest, choosing an activity to recuperate. Now, we're moving into a space where the intention is the lack of intention. It's unstructured time where you don't have a goal or a task.
So it's not napping, reading, or a mindful walk.
Precisely. Those are wonderful. But true stillness is about letting go of the need to do anything. It's allowing your mind to wander without judgment, to observe, or to just exist in the present moment without demanding anything. It's a complete break from task management.
Our brains are always on. What happens when we give them this unfiltered break?
This connects to the neuroscience of recharge. When we're engaged in tasks, our brain is in focused mode. To truly rest, we need to activate the diffuse mode, also known as the default mode network, which becomes active when our minds are at rest.
So it's not brain off, but brain rerouting to a gentler processing?
Exactly. When you allow yourself to do nothing, your mind is free to make unexpected connections. Brief moments of aha when solutions surface. It's like your subconscious mind is cleaning up, organizing thoughts, and stumbling upon brilliant ideas. Think of it as creative incubation.
So, unstructured downtime isn't empty time. It's time where our brains can do their background work. It's like a gardener letting a field lay fallow to replenish its nutrients.
That's a brilliant analogy. The field needs that period of apparent idleness to become fertile. Similarly, our minds need stillness to make new connections and foster creativity. Many great minds have spoken about their best ideas coming during quiet contemplation.
It sounds almost like active meditation, but without the formal structure.
It's less about formal meditation and more about creating the conditions for introspection and unfettered thought. It's about cultivating a relationship with yourself that doesn't demand performance. It's about being present with your own thoughts and feelings without trying to change or analyze them.
But for someone driven by productivity, this is hard. How do we introduce doing nothing into our lives?
It starts with intention and permission. First, give yourself permission. This isn't laziness. It's crucial for well-being and enhanced creativity. Then start small. Try carving out just 5 or 10 minutes each day. During that time, resist checking your phone or planning.
So, just sit or stand or lie down and be?
Yes, sit and watch clouds. Stand by a window and observe. Lie down and feel your body. The key is to detach from any self-imposed agenda. If thoughts about what you should be doing arise, gently acknowledge them and let them float by.
That sounds incredibly difficult. My mind would jump into planning or anxiety.
That's normal. The practice isn't about an empty mind. It's about noticing when your mind has wandered and gently bringing it back again and again without frustration. It's like building a muscle of non-judgmental awareness. Think of it as a gentle rewilding of your inner landscape.
Rewilding. I like that. It implies bringing something back to its natural, untamed state.
Exactly. Our natural state isn't constant, frantic activity. It allows for rest, observation, and deep reflection. When we embrace stillness, we deepen our connection with ourselves, hearing our own inner wisdom, which often gets drowned out by demands.
So, the benefits of doing nothing are manifold, fostering creativity, enhancing problem solving, deepening self awareness, and allowing essential downtime. And the practice involves small, unstructured moments of presence.
That's a wonderful summary. It's about shifting from doing to incorporating moments of being. This complements active rest by providing a complete surrender to the present moment for mental and emotional recalibration. It's foundational for sustainable excellence.
It's a profound idea, one I'll contemplate and hopefully practice.
Me too. So, we've moved from scheduling rest to the power of active recovery, and now we're embracing stillness and doing nothing. This practice, while challenging for our productivity focused minds, is vital for deep rest, enhanced creativity, and self understanding. Next episode, we'll explore sabbaticals and longer retreats. Welcome back to Rest Without Guilt. We're exploring the power of extended breaks.
It's episode 9, and we're diving into sabbaticals and retreats. These might sound like luxuries, but you're arguing they're essential.
Absolutely. Our modern lives are built around constant activity. We've seen how even small breaks improve brain function. A sabbatical is like a major system update for that process.
So, what exactly is a sabbatical? Is it just a really long vacation?
A sabbatical is more than a vacation. It's a planned period of leave from your regular work, intentionally used for activities like research, travel, personal projects, or deep rejuvenation. The core is a deliberate step away, designed to help you return refreshed with new perspectives.
And what about extended retreats?
Retreats offer similar benefits, but are often more structured around a specific theme, like silent meditation, creative writing, or a digital detox. They provide an immersive, focused experience away from daily distractions, essentially acting as concentrated doses of intentional pause and self-care.
So, both involve creating a significant zone of what we might call unbusiness for deeper reflection. This is like exponentially expanding the idea of our daily resets.
Exactly. Picture it as the essential recovery time after running a marathon. Our lives are like long races, and we need these extended periods of recovery to prevent burnout and sustain our energy and creativity over time.
Beyond simply feeling less tired, what are the tangible benefits of these longer breaks?
The benefits are quite profound. First and foremost, burnout prevention. Extended breaks are absolutely vital for pulling yourself out of deep exhaustion and helping to prevent it from taking hold in the first place. Second, they significantly boost creativity and problem solving. When you step away from your usual routine, your brain can engage in what's called diffuse thinking, where new connections and novel solutions are more likely to emerge.
I've definitely heard stories of people discovering completely new career paths or reigniting a lost passion after taking a sabbatical.
Precisely. This leads to profound personal growth and rediscovery. You have the opportunity to reconnect with yourself outside of your usual professional or daily roles. It's akin to hitting a fundamental reset button on your personal operating system.
Preventing burnout, enhancing creativity, fostering personal growth. These sound incredibly valuable, but also, frankly, a little daunting to imagine fitting into our busy lives. How do we realistically make these kinds of breaks happen with jobs and everyday responsibilities?
We really need to start framing these breaks as strategic investments rather than just time off. For those in traditional jobs, explore your company's sabbatical policies. If none exist, consider advocating for one. Fanatically, it requires careful planning and a conscious prioritization of rest and personal growth.
For entrepreneurs or those who are self-employed, it might feel even more challenging to step away.
It certainly requires a different kind of planning, perhaps involving building robust systems to keep things running or delegating tasks effectively. For creatives or freelancers, it often means diligent saving and a clear plan for reevaluating your workload and pricing upon your return. Ultimately, it's a significant mindset shift.
So, the key is strategically planning for the absence of work and the deliberate presence of rejuvenation. What are some practical first steps people can take to even begin thinking about this?
First, define your why. What is it you specifically hope to gain from this extended break? Knowing your purpose will be your compass for structuring the experience. Second, explore the feasibility. Assess your finances, consider work arrangements, and research potential destinations or activities. Do your homework. Third, consider starting smaller. A 2-week retreat or even a month-long unplugged staycation can be an excellent way to test the waters and experience the benefits of intentional, extended disconnection. The principle remains the same: intentional, extended disconnection.
That's a fantastic point. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing leap. When we come back, we'll look at how these extended breaks actually enhance our performance, proving that rest is a performance enhancer.
That's right. We'll explore how rest is not the opposite of performance, but a critical component of achieving your best. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Rest Without Guilt. Today, we explore how rest enhances performance.
It sounds counterintuitive, but working harder isn't always the answer.
We've covered the dangers of constant busyness and the myth of pure productivity. Today, rest is a strategic tool for peak performance.
So, how does resting lead to better results?
Our brains are like phone batteries. Overuse without recharging leads to slowdown and unresponsiveness.
What cognitive functions improve with rest?
Focus and attention become sharper. We concentrate better, filter distractions, and minimize mistakes.
I notice that too. When tired, tasks feel overwhelming and my mind wanders.
Rest also boosts problem solving and creativity. Downtime allows the brain's networks to connect ideas and find solutions.
Like in episode 4, when we discussed different brain states for different functions. Rest helps with that behind the scenes work.
Precisely. And decision-making improves. Exhaustion impairs judgment, but rest optimizes the brain for better planning.
So, rest isn't just avoiding burnout, it's making us smarter.
Yes, it's also crucial for learning and memory. Sleep consolidates information, transferring it to long-term storage. Without it, learning suffers.
Like trying to save a large file on a full hard drive, it's inefficient.
Exactly. And emotional regulation improves. Fatigue leads to irritability and lower stress tolerance, impacting interactions and our work environment.
This is vital. Pushing too hard leads to poor decisions and burnout, which isn't sustainable.
Constantly working through exhaustion is poor self-management. Prioritizing rest is strategic. It makes us more efficient, achieving more with less effort.
We get a higher return on our time and energy investment when well rested.
Correct. Think of athletes. They need rest for peak physical performance. We need to apply that to our cognitive performance. Rest is our recovery.
We've explored various rest forms, from daily resets to sabbaticals. It's more than just sleep.
Indeed, it's about a spectrum of rest, as we discussed in episode 5. Intentional pauses, scheduling silence, and embracing stillness are key. Viewing rest as productive is a significant step.
What's the main message for those still driven by constant activity?
Rest is not the opposite of performance. It's the foundation of sustainable high performance. Integrating rest invests in your cognitive abilities, creativity, decision-making, and emotional well-being. This leads to better focus, efficiency, and learning.
So, rest is part of the work itself, not just a reward. It enables the work to be done well.
That's the mindset shift. Rest allows you to be your best, most capable self. It optimizes your capacity.
Working smarter, not just harder, comes from respecting our need for downtime.
Exactly. Embracing rest means thriving, not just surviving. You unlock potential by allowing yourself to recharge.
This reframes productivity. It's about the quality of our focus and thinking, not just hours worked.
Absolutely. We've journeyed from the busy culture to understanding rest science and its power for performance.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
It is. Next episode, Mindset Shift from Must Do to Can Be. Welcome back to Rest Without Guilt. We're on episode 11, and we're deep into the transformational power of rest. Last time, we explored how conscious rest is a critical performance enhancer. Today, we're diving into something even more profound, the mindset shift from must do to can be.
That's a big one, Alex. So, we've spent the last 10 episodes talking about the practicalities of rest. But you're saying this episode is about the internal change, how thinking about rest can fundamentally alter how we see ourselves and the world.
Exactly. For so long, many of us have worn busyness as a badge of honor. Our self-worth has become tied to our output, to the endless to-do lists we conquer. This creates a powerful internal driver, but it's a driver fueled by a feeling of obligation, a constant must-do.
The must-do mentality. Like, I must finish this report by Friday, or I must get this promotion. It feels like there's no room for anything else.
Precisely. And that must-do mindset is inherently performance-driven, often to the point of burnout. It's about achieving external validation through constant activity. But what happens when we intentionally build and rest? What happens when we start seeing rest not as a personal failing, but as a strategic choice, a foundation for everything else?
That's where the can be comes in, right? It's about shifting from an identity that's defined by doing to one that embraces being.
You got it. When we embrace rest, we start to loosen the grip of that must-do urgency. We begin to cultivate a mindset of can be. This means being open to possibilities, being present, and allowing ourselves to simply exist without the pressure of constant productivity. It's about intrinsic motivation, about doing things because they align with our values or spark our curiosity, not because we feel compelled to.
So, if must do is about obligation and external pressure, what does can be feel like in practice?
Imagine a chef who's always told to make the same popular dish. They must make it perfectly because it sells. But what if that chef, after allowing themselves adequate rest and rejuvenation, starts thinking, I can experiment with new ingredients, or I can create something entirely unexpected? That shift from producing the expected to exploring the possible is a can be mindset. It's less about meeting a predefined target and more about discovering what's next, what's novel, what's even a little bit magical.
I love that analogy. It makes it feel much more tangible. So, resting more helps us discover what we can do, rather than just focusing on what we must do.
Exactly. And this can be mindset isn't just about creativity. It fosters resilience. When you're constantly in a must-do mode, setbacks can feel catastrophic. They derail your entire carefully constructed schedule and sense of self. But when you operate from a can-be perspective, a setback is simply a new data point, an opportunity to adapt. You understand that your worth isn't solely tied to linear progress.
That makes so much sense. If my identity is built on constant achievement, then failing to achieve feels like failing as a person. But if my identity is about exploration and growth, a failure is just part of the journey.
Precisely. This shift can lead to a profound sense of inner peace. Think about it. The must-do mindset often comes with a hum of anxiety, a nagging feeling that you're not doing enough. The can be mindset, however, fosters a more relaxed, curious, and open approach to life. It's about embracing the process, not just the outcome.
So, how do we cultivate this can be mindset? Is it simply a matter of deciding to feel that way, or are there actionable steps?
It's definitely a practice, not a switch, and it builds on the strategies we've discussed throughout this series. First, continue to honor your rest. Regularly scheduling intentional downtime is the bedrock. Without it, your mind is too frazzled to even entertain the idea of can be.
So, the practical application of rest is the gateway to this new mindset.
Yes. Second, start noticing your internal dialogue. When you catch yourself thinking, I must do this, pause. Ask yourself, do I truly have to? Or is there a way I can approach this differently? What if I chose not to do this? What would happen? Challenging those ingrained must-do thoughts is crucial.
That's powerful. It's about creating a moment of conscious awareness to observe your own thought patterns.
Third, reframe your definition of success. If success has always been measured by external achievements and busyness, it's time to broaden that definition. Success can also be about well-being, about meaningful connections, about learning something new just for the joy of it, about simply being present in your own life.
So, success can be feeling calm, or being curious, or genuinely connecting with someone. It's not always about hitting a target.
Exactly. And finally, embrace imperfection. The must-do mindset often strives for flawlessness, which is exhausting and unrealistic. The can-be mindset allows for mistakes, for messy processes, for the beauty in the unfinished. It's about iteration, not immediate perfection. Remember when we discussed the neuroscience of recharge? How a rested brain is more flexible and open to new ideas. This can be mindset is the behavioral manifestation of that rejuvenated brain.
It's like we're rewiring our internal operating system. We've moved from a system driven by fear of not doing enough to one fueled by curiosity and the potential for growth.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And this shift is what truly leads to sustainable excellence. Burnout happens when we push past our limits in service of the must-do. Sustainable excellence, however, is built on the foundation of rest and the expansive possibilities of the Kimby mindset. It's about doing what you choose to do when you're at your best, rather than what you feel you're obligated to do, just to keep up.
So, to recap, we're moving from an identity defined by constant must-do obligations, often fueled by external validation and a fear of falling behind, to a more resilient, peaceful, and creative identity of can be. This can be mindset embraces possibility, allows for imperfection, and redefines success to include well-being and curiosity. And importantly, it's cultivated by continuing to prioritize rest, by actively challenging our must-do thoughts, by broadening our definition of success, and by embracing the messy reality of growth.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. This fundamental shift in perspective is perhaps the most powerful outcome of truly embracing rest. It's not just about feeling better. It's about becoming better, more fully, and more sustainably.
This has been so insightful, Alex. It really ties everything together. We've gone from understanding the problem of busyness to implementing rest strategies, and now we're seeing how that translates into a whole new way of being.
Indeed. And that brings us to our final episode. We'll explore how to build truly sustainable excellence, with rest as its very foundation. We'll discuss how to make these principles a permanent part of your life, ensuring that rest isn't a temporary fix, but the ongoing cornerstone of a flourishing existence. Thanks for listening. rest without guilt. Permission to stop makes better. This is our 12th and final episode, where we're building sustainable excellence with rest as its foundation.
And Alex, I feel like we've come such a long way on this journey. We started by questioning that constant feeling of being busy and unpacked the deep-seated guilt that often accompanies rest.
Absolutely, Lisa. We explored the sometimes unhealthy cult of productivity that pushes us to always be doing, always be achieving. But we also learned about the incredible neuroscience behind recharging and how crucial genuine rest is for our brains.
We even broadened our definition of rest, moving beyond just sleep to appreciate the entire spectrum of ways we can recover and rejuvenate. From those daily resets to the more significant extended breaks like sabbaticals.
And crucially, we talked about how rest isn't the opposite of peak performance. In fact, it's the secret ingredient. True, sustainable excellence is built on a solid foundation of well-being, not the shaky ground of burnout.
So, today we're bringing it all together. We're looking at how to make rest a permanent, integrated part of our lives, not just a luxury we occasionally indulge in. It's about building a life and a career that can last, a life where we can thrive consistently.
Think of it like building a magnificent structure. You wouldn't construct a skyscraper without a deep, strong foundation. You wouldn't build it on sand. You'd build it on bedrock. In our lives, that bedrock, that essential foundation for any kind of lasting achievement or even just a fulfilling existence, is rest.
That's such a powerful analogy, Alex, because often we treat rest like an optional add-on. We think, I'll rest when I'm done, but then there's always something else to do. Or we see rest as a reward we have to earn by being incredibly productive first.
Exactly. But this series has been about shifting that mindset, moving from I must do to I can be, embracing the idea that our worth isn't tied to our output, and that taking care of ourselves is a prerequisite for doing our best work and living our best lives. This is the essence of sustainable excellence, performing at a high level not for a short burst, but over the long haul.
So, how do we truly embed this into our daily lives, Alex? How do we make this shift from believing productivity is king to recognizing rest as the true sovereign?
It starts with intention. Remember those daily resets we discussed? It might be a 5-minute walk, a few moments of quiet breathing, or stepping away from your tasks. These aren't lost minutes. They are vital investments in your mental and physical capital. They prevent the small drains from becoming a catastrophic depletion.
So, consciously scheduling those small moments, like putting them in your calendar just like a meeting?
Precisely. And it also means reevaluating our relationship with busyness. Is being busy a badge of honor or a sign that we're perhaps overcommit or inefficient? We've learned that true productivity often comes from clarity of thought, which is only achievable when our minds are rested.
I remember in episode 4, we talked about the neuroscience of recharge. How our brains need downtime to consolidate information, to solve problems, and even to be creative. It's not just about feeling less tired, it's about actively improving our cognitive functions.
And that's the key to sustainable excellence. It's not about pushing through exhaustion. It's about working smarter, not just harder, and that smartness comes from a well-rested mind and body. Think about athletes. They don't train constantly without rest. Their rest periods are as critical as their training sessions for muscle repair, growth, and ultimately, peak performance.
That makes perfect sense. And it's not just about individual performance, is it? When we're rested, we're more patient, more empathetic, and better communicators. That impacts our relationships and our ability to collaborate effectively.
Indeed, sustainable excellence extends beyond our personal achievements. It creates a more positive and productive environment for everyone around us. When we are not depleted, we have more to give to our work, to our loved ones, and to ourselves.
So, looking back at our entire series, Alex, what are the most critical takeaways for someone who wants to build this foundation of rest for sustainable excellence?
I think the first is to deeply understand why rest matters at a fundamental level. It's not a weakness. It's a biological necessity that directly impacts our cognitive, emotional, and physical well-being. We covered this in terms of brain function and energy levels.
And that leads directly to redefining rest. Moving beyond the societal pressure of only valuing intense work and recognizing the incredible value of stillness, intentional pauses, and even dedicated, doing nothing periods. Remember episode 8?
Absolutely. Then comes the practical application, intentional scheduling, making rest a non-negotiable part of our day, week, and year. Whether it's those small daily resets, longer deep work breaks, or significant time off like sabbaticals, we need to proactively make space for it.
And with intentional scheduling comes the crucial mindset shift. That is, truly believing that rest is productive, that it enhances our capabilities, and that it's a vital component of high performance, not a hindrance to it. This was episode 11's focus, moving from must do to can be.
And finally, the overarching principle, rest as a continuous practice. It's not a one-time fix. It's about building habits and creating a lifestyle where rest is woven into the fabric of our existence, allowing us to continue to grow, achieve, and live fulfilled lives over the long term. It is the foundational element for sustainable excellence.
So, to summarize, we've learned that rest isn't about laziness or avoiding work. It's a strategic imperative for anyone who wants to achieve true, lasting excellence. It's about understanding the science, expanding our definition, proactively scheduling it, shifting our mindset, and making it a lifelong practice.
Exactly, Lisa. We've journeyed from questioning the siren song of busy to understanding the neuroscience of recharge, exploring the spectrum of rest, and finally, to building a life where sustainable excellence is not just possible, but inevitable because it's built on the solid bedrock of rest.
It's about giving ourselves permission to stop, not as an act of defiance, but as an act of self-preservation and strategic enablement. It's permission to be fully operational, not just barely functional. To truly flourish, we must rest.
Thanks for listening to this series.